Welcome back to the big question. Of course, tonight we're talking about the tragedy of collapsing buildings in Kenya. And before we go to our panelists and I introduce them, this is not the first time. Let's just look at a quick chronology of such cases recently. We start in March 9th, 2016, a four-story building in Zimmerman, Nairobi, whose construction was questioned 2 years before collapsed. No one was injured since it had been vacated. Then on May 11th, 2015, a perimeter wall at a South B mosque collapsed due to heavy rains. 10 people died then. In April 2nd, 2015, 7 people died and many others were trapped after a building behind Thika Road Mall in Roysambu collapsed. Again, in January 4th, 2015, 5 people died. Several others were injured after a 6-story residential building collapsed in Huruma. Just weeks before that, in December 17, 2014, a 5-story residential building that was partly occupied and was still under construction collapsed in Kaloleni. Again, people died, 7 in number then. In June 14, 2011, 2 workers died after a 6-story building under construction collapsed in Nairobi. And in January 2006, a 5-story building under construction along Ronald Gala Street collapsed. 5 people, in fact 14 people died and 14 more were injured then. So this is something that has been happening in this country. Our guest tonight, I'll start on my left, Engineer Evans Goro, who is a member of the Architectural Association of Kenya. On my immediate right is Chief Executive for Planning and Urban Development, Christopher Khaemba, in Nairobi County Government, and Chair of the NCA Board, Steve Oundo. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time for the big question tonight. And I'll start with you, Khaemba, and I'll actually look at a text, a tweet here. Somebody says, it's Simon Bogwa, the county government is to blame. The county government will say the building was not approved in the first place. That is what the county government said. Yet the construction went on. So should the county government take blame? Are you supposed to, you should be responsible, isn't it?
So this is in regard to the
Huruma
collapsed building
in Huruma.
Yes. A number of things around that tragedy, and for which we certainly regret and share our deep sorrow and condolences with the families affected. And this building was marked for demolition by a committee that was set up.
By the Nairobi County government?
No, this was by national government.
Through NCA?
It was collaborative.
It was actually a presidential direction.
It was a presidential direction.
After the collapse
in January 2015.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
So it was amongst those many buildings that were marked for demolition.
Right.
And it was an audit exercise. And I'm sure the chairman will be talking in details about this.
Yeah.
And that exercise was not completed as a result of budgetary constraints.
That of demolishing?
No, that of first, even the audit itself.
That the national government was to conduct. But my question is, if you're saying this building was not approved, how is it that the building was constructed before we even get to this audit? How is it that it was constructed?
It's not the only building in Nairobi.
I'm asking about
this particular one.
Yes.
We have
and many others. Yes.
There are many buildings in Nairobi which are not approved. And the reason, one reason, major one, for approvals to be effected,
yes,
the developer must have a title deed or the document satisfying that this person owns the land on which the development is to take place. So the whole of Pipeline, for example, which is an expansive area with many developments in Nairobi, the developers don't have title deeds. And therefore, they went ahead to do the constructions.
So my question is, how are they allowed to? As we know in Nairobi, for instance, I'll look at Nairobi. If you ever try and put up any structure before you do anything,
yes,
county government officials will be there and will stop you. So my question is, if this was not approved, how is it that this specific building plus the others were constructed?
I think the development around Nairobi has been faster than, beyond the capacity in terms of monitoring.
In terms of county government monitoring?
Monitoring, absolutely. I think I need to acknowledge that. But
that you failed in that as a county government?
It was failure, but I think failure in terms of capacity to monitor the entire city and to supervise the entire city.
Okay, you want to respond?
Yeah. Well, I was saying, let's look at the reality and the procedural way without looking at blames. For anybody to think of building anything that is used by human being, you must discuss with an architect, an engineer, and who else. And when that paperwork is being put in place, the first place it goes to is into the local government authority.
Yes.
And before you even start buying a nail, that paperwork must be right. The title deed must be right, the certificate of the engineer, the architect, all that must be right.
Before you even start doing anything.
Before you even go anywhere. It is within the presentation of that paper that the county government goes to the site and verifies the plot is right. They have surveyors, they have got everything, they have got your papers, and you've paid your rates. So, if it doesn't have manpower, then it should not exist.
In the first place.
Yes. No, we have not gone to construction.
Yes.
No, we are just dealing with papers.
Really. And you know, this was before really the county government came into place, because this construction took place 2011, 2012.
But do you think there are buildings that have come up after?
When were the bylaws written?
Much before, but they were not affected.
But who is supposed to effect the bylaws?
Yeah. I think the problem really needs...
Not the policeman.
But you started, engineer, you started by saying, look, let's not apportion blame. And I think the approach would be what we are doing now.
Where is the
Yes, we will come to that. But okay, let's get Steve Ondo to talk about this. You're saying this building was marked for demolition.
Yes.
An audit was carried. That audit, by the way, was you are carrying it out as NCA?
No, it was actually we have the building inspectorate that is under the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. But there were very many stakeholders. National Construction Authority was part of it. We had the Board of Registration of Architects.
Right.
We had the Engineers Board of Kenya was part of it.
I think the county as well.
County, of course. You cannot discuss buildings without
the county.
The county.
Yes.
So actually, the thing is, as he mentioned here, the key thing is its full implementation, because you see, it is not enshrined in law, that particular directive. And what we're trying to do right now, and that is what we're having in terms of interstate ministerial discussions, is how do we have a scenario where at least if a building has been marked for demolition like that, for a particular scenario, it is actually the county government that is supposed to do that. To demolish it.
Demolish it.
You need funds. You need funds, by the way. Have you ever thought of what it costs to demolish that building?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
And I hope you also know it's a specialist job. The word demolish is very easy to say.
So when did you realize that you don't have these funds to do this? This audit was carried out from January, isn't it?
It's still ongoing.
Oh, it's still ongoing.
It's still what
so far,
actually 58 buildings were marked in that area.
Huruma specifically, 58 buildings, so including this one that came
so now
down.
there are 57 left right now. Okay, so what do we do right now? Vacate. I think you've just covered in your news right now. What did you do just now in the news? You actually showed the challenges you're having in getting people evacuated from the buildings around so that they can continue with the recovery mission, isn't it? Do you see how difficult that is?
That is true.
And this is in the public glare with all the security.
In fact, I'll look at two people here from Huruma. We'll come back to you to the discussion. Two people from Huruma. I think a lady talking about how difficult it is to move, if we can have that. Right, that clip again from Huruma today, where of course the building collapsed. Right. They're not ready with that. Okay, but yes.
Yeah, but in summary, that audit, there were various categories of buildings. The 58 was said these buildings need to go down like yesterday, but before they go down, you have to evacuate. You can't knock down a building when people are seated there.
Okay. We have how many buildings in Nairobi generally?
The numbers are large. I think
in terms of
the ones that were marked for demolition. I mean, they're not.
I think could be upwards of 200. That's the figure.
The 200, yes. 200 had structural issues, of which 57 precarious. Yes.
But I'm talking about Nairobi generally.
We're talking about the one,
isn't it?
You see, by the way, let me put it this way so that you get it very clearly. The audit, you can't have audited all the buildings.
Yes, so far.
That's so we actually, the building inspector did about 2,085, of which about 200, let's say about 250 had serious structural issues, and of those, about 58 were earmarked.
And none has been demolished?
None of them. Except we had 2 demolitions in, Zimmerman At least the county government, you coordinated that with that particular inspectorate.
So my question then is, when did you realize that this is so difficult to evacuate people, that you don't have the funds to do this? Because now as we are talking, you're talking about there were 58 in Huruma.
Yes.
Now it's 57. Because this didn't happen, people have died in Huruma.
Yes.
So when did you realize that this cannot happen, so that you make noise about it and talk about it?
How would I put it? The best way I would put it, so that at least you know what exactly is happening. It's been work in progress. That's the way. That's the best thing I could tell you about it.
So it didn't come to execution in terms of bringing down the buildings. I think they were to come to that after completion of the audit exercise, and I think a budget was also worked out
After the audit of the exercise.
Yes.
So the whole exercise has. Okay, when is it supposed to end? So that the.
But you were saying, let's look at the issue now in a more practical way. Why are we spending money on a problem which we could have resolved at the initial stage? We should not have let that construction started if the paperwork was not right. Why are we having things going on when they are wrong at the initial stage? Why are we having things being reversed in approvals or being forwarded in approval? Why are we correcting mistakes that we are making? I mean, let's look at it in the risk. If this building does not have a plot title deed which is genuine, does not have all the registration paper, how did it start? I'm sure in the office you have inspectors who go and inspect.
Yes.
They should have stopped it at excavation.
Yeah. We find ourselves in that situation when the government came into place.
But if you don't have capacity,
let me just finish.
AK has come out very openly to facilitate and assist professionally.
Yes.
To assist the county government of Nairobi or any other.
You're correct.
In any other issue that needs logistic and professional input. In fact, in the approving board, we have 4 chairs. We sit in the approving board and we look at every detail. So capacity, well, it might not be there, but we are there as Acacia Association of Kenya to assist.
No, that's true. And then we've taken advantage of that. You probably are aware that recently we formed Development Regularization Board, which is represented, from the professional bodies, Architectural Association of Kenya, and
what I would suggest, and the way forward really is the solution here. Okay. One of the things, and I think you could use the power of this great fourth estate, which is the media. We've talked about 57 or 58 buildings.
Yeah.
If tomorrow, if you do have those powers, it would be very good for us to go to those specific buildings, highlight them out, and you'll see, I think you'll be able to convince people to actually move out of those buildings while, as you're saying, the government is going in its steps of going to the next step of demolition.
Powers legally?
Yes.
Legally.
Come again?
Powers, by powers you mean legally?
No. You see, no, just
No,
the power of media, no.
It's because before this you said this was just a directive from the president.
What we were saying, for those buildings, yes, but you see what we are saying, I'm trying to give you a solution with the powers that you have, how you can help. This problem is not, I would say, the enforcement agency. This is a whole Kenyan problem.
Yes,
I'm actually giving you a role which you can
yes.
help. There's a very good one which you've done of saying where is the problem, and now we're trying to come up with solutions. Please, if, at least this particular building, okay, it was done before the formation of the National Construction Authority, but we're still taking responsibility in that there are other such buildings that have been there even before the formation of the National Construction Authority. And I hope you need to know that for NCA, we only deal with buildings that are under construction. Okay?
So and that is again with the county government.
No, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
So let's try and
let me enforce that point of yours. We have a clip here of some of the people in Huruma and what they were saying about evacuation.
Ukiambiwa utoke na una pali unaenda utaingia kwa nani? Hata mimi mwenyewe siwezi kukubali nikae kwa hiyo gorofa niporomokewe, lakini shida ni kwamba sina shilingi yoyote na sina chochote. Sasa hata hiyo wakati yenye watu wananiambia niame, sijui watu wanasema niame niende wapi.
And Ezekiel Obilo on Twitter puts it quite bluntly. He says, blame those who see the cracks and still occupy the building. But do they have a choice?
They do.
Okay, let's look at it not the theoretical way, but the practical way.
Yes.
There are 2 people we need to address in Kenya, the developer and the occupant. don't go and occupy a house that doesn't have an occupation certificate. Because when that certificate appears, that means the procedural things are proper and very nicely done. And you, the developer, don't develop without the backup of the required paperwork and assistance from consultants. And there's also that shortcut that consultants are overcharging. Hussein, you've gone to hospital. Have you ever told your doctor can have a discount of 3,000 shillings?
Yeah,
no.
But with regard to these buildings, we were on the site on Sunday and also today. We sent our team from the county government. We have actually earmarked 7 blocks for demolition in the next 7 days. We are going to give notice. It's precarious occupying those buildings. And the point is, the tenants here are paying rent. This rent, they can pay it elsewhere. They're not staying there for free. But the risk to their lives is enormous.
Okay, I don't want to belabor this point, but there's a problem here in that there's always approval of such buildings, and you're saying you have a capacity issue. Are you saying, I mean, going forward, how are you going to handle this? Are we going to see any other building coming up like this? Because it has been said, we've looked at the chronology of such buildings since 2000, since 1999, things have happened, and they still keep on happening.
Okay, on that point, this is what we've done. We developed a framework through a bill and a policy to establish the development regularization advisory committee from the professional bodies involved in construction. The bill came into effect on the 3rd of March, and this committee was inaugurated last week. It's just unfortunate that it coincided with this. So, and going forward,
practically, how do you stop this? Because it's happening. And it has happened, and it has led to this.
So there is a window now that developers in Nairobi have been given. These buildings will be checked, their structural integrity established. Those that pass the standards will be regularized, and the occupation certificates given. Those that don't will be added to the 200 that will need to be brought down. So this is going to, the oversight body is going to be this regulatory body that we formed from the professional bodies.
Right. Already you're saying you have identified 7 buildings in Huruma.
Yes.
Is among the 58 that were identified.
Correct.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
That's right.
My question then is, how are you going to, first, when will they be demolished? And how are you going to work out with the people living there? How do you do this? And in what time frame?
In fact, it will have to be collaborative. We've spoken to the Minister of Lands, Urban Planning, and also NCA and Architectural Society of Kenya. It really will have to be a joint exercise between the national government agencies and the county. And so on, because it's an enormous.
What you're saying is true. What I just wanted to add, I'm just bringing. You know, like now we are talking about like that plight that is in the construction sector. And I want you to remember that tendency, like as you're saying, people doing the wrong thing. It is really one of the things I want us to start changing, not just in construction. You've seen how we behave on the roads. Most of our traffic is because of what? We don't observe traffic rules. It comes to construction, we are not following the right thing. And you don't have to be watched. I want people to start saying, as he was saying, I want to get a proper approval. So you go, you get your consultants to get your approval, you get your approval from the county. You have your works supervised by a contractor registered by the National Construction Authority. Not because you have to, but because you want to, and it is the right thing to do. Those are the things we have to start changing in terms of our culture, and we'll be able to solve it. Otherwise, I mean, let us look at it. Even I like giving the example of Kenya Revenue Authority taxation. Everybody's supposed to pay their taxes, isn't it? You don't pay your taxes because KRA is going to come.
No, that is great.
And that's what I think is the solution. And
that is great advice, Steve, but there's also accountability. With all that advice, and people have still not been following it. What I'm trying to get from you, NCA and Nairobi County, and I mean the joint team that you have to do this, is when and how are you going to do this? How are you going to do this and when?
Now.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, the word is yesterday. In fact, it's
It didn't
not
happen yesterday.
What I'm
It
saying
never
yesterday,
happened,
why I'm saying the word yesterday, it's not something that you should wait to do. And why I'm using the word yesterday is that everything is being done right now to make a difference in this particular section. And I also wanted to highlight a very important thing. Okay, I was concerned about this particular building that collapsed because it was in occupation. Most of the collapses we've had, if you've been doing a study, have been buildings in construction.
Okay.
And again, if you do a good study on that over the last 3 years since the inception of NCA, there's a decline in that. So there's a big difference. Hussein, are you aware about the NCA X around this country? At least you're aware. So there is something that is being done. The only problem is when you have one building that comes down like that, it is catastrophic. In fact, right now I'm really with those families who have lost.
Very sad.
It's a very sad and their prayers. So let us try our best to reduce, and that is what we're doing here. I'm actually glad that you've actually called all of us here to try and get solutions. The blames, you know, they were there.
But in the long term,
solution from here.
But in the long term, we have to tarmac our road. The road of proper documentation, proper supervision, and the other hands which are helping you to do it. Like you go to demolish those buildings as the county government. There's somebody who is going to pay money at the end of it. You can go and borrow money and save those lives. You're keeping them there. How many days now? Almost a week. At very bad risk. Why will a building like that collapse? Because the vertical supports are not as good as the horizontal. So it crumbles like a sandwich.
Okay.
So you need to get those people out, borrow money, go secure them somewhere else, at least put life in your concern.
Right, gentlemen. When this is something that, and I'll read one tweet here that captures it. That says, everyone, the government, developers, and citizens. It's my responsibility as a citizen as well to choose where I live. So everybody is involved. But we're leaving this discussion saying 57 buildings in Huruma are not safe. And we are not saying when something will be done.
No, we are evicting the people. We are evicting the people.
Because it's a disaster. This is a disaster in waiting.
Absolutely. We are starting with the 7 in the next 7 days because those are high risk.
7 in the next 7 days?
Yeah, please.
And then after that you...
Yes. And it's a collaborative exercise. We have talked to the agencies and we are very much together on this.
7 days from today?
Yes.
All right.
And you said Nakusema Nakutenda, so I've told you, please use your good fourth estate. Let's go to those buildings and highlight them right now so that at least, I mean, you know, if the media came there and those tenants actually see that these buildings are being spoiled, you know, it makes a big difference.
All right, gentlemen. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Engineer Evans Goro, member of the Architectural Association of Kenya, chair of the NCA board, Steve Ondo, sorry for that, and Chief Executive for Planning and Urban Development, Nairobi County Government, Christopher Khaimba. Thank you so much for making time for The Big Question. Keep talking to us on 22422 on Twitter using the hashtag The Big Question. We'll look at your feedback after the break.